Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to picture the ultimate road trip. You were packing your bags, loading up the family, and planning to cross the country. But right now, if you walk into a traditional legacy dealership to buy a vehicle for that journey, they look you dead in the eye and force you into a brutal, unforgiving compromise. They tell you to buy a massive gasoline SUV that wastes 70% of its energy is heat, costing you an absolute fortune at the fuel pump. Or they tell you to buy a modern pure electric vehicle, forcing you to plan your entire family vacation around broken public chargers, suffering from severe range anxiety, and losing up to 40% of your battery the moment the winter weather hits. They told you this compromise is just the unavoidable reality of modern driving. They lied. Welcome back to Wheel-Wise Ways. Today, we are not reading from glossy corporate brochures. We are performing a brutal, uncompromising forensic autopsy on the road trip vehicle. The era of range anxiety, massive fuel bills, and physical fatigue is officially dead. The Chinese technological vanguard has completely rewritten the fundamental laws of thermodynamics in packaging. Today, we are going to dissect the 3 absolute best value vehicles for a road trip. These are the machines that are actively turning traditional European and Japanese highway cruisers into obsolete fossils. Let's dive into the engineering. When we talk about the ultimate road trip, the single most important metric is uninterrupted freedom. For years, traditional plug-in hybrids were sold to us as the perfect bridge. Cars like the Toyota RAV4 Prime gave us a tiny electric range, maybe 75 kilometers, paired with a complex, heavy gearbox where the gas engine and electric motor constantly fought for control. When you stepped on the gas, the engine screamed, the gears shifted down, and the efficiency completely collapsed. That is an engineering compromise. Geely looked at this architecture and completely destroyed the concept with the new Geely Boy UL, also known as the Galaxy series. This is not a traditional hybrid. It is an extended-range electric vehicle, or EREV. Under the hood, the 1.5-liter gasoline engine has been entirely demoted. It has absolutely no physical connection to the wheels. There is no drive shaft. It acts strictly as a dedicated, highly efficient onboard power station. Because it never has to rev up to 5,000 RPM to pass a heavy truck on the highway, it sits perfectly in its absolute Goldilocks zone of roughly 2,500 RPM. This allows the engine to achieve an impossible 46.5% thermal efficiency. It extracts every single joule of kinetic energy from a drop of fuel and turns it directly into electrons. But the real magic for your road trip is the battery. Geely integrated a massive 60 kilowatt-hour lithium iron phosphate battery directly into the chassis, using cell-to-body architecture. This gives you an unheard-of 375 kilometers of pure electric, zero-emission range. For your daily life, it is a pure EV, but the moment you decide to drive from Madrid to Paris or Mexico City to Cancun, that hyper-efficient gas generator wakes up. You get an absolutely staggering combined range of 1,525 kilometers on a single tank and charge. You are getting the smooth, silent drive of a high-end EV with the unlimited freedom of a diesel truck. It is the ultimate road trip weapon that completely eradicates range anxiety. But range is only half the battle. A true road trip requires physical and mental endurance, which brings us to our second choice, the Chery Exceed EX7. If you want to cross a continent, you need absolute serenity. For a generation, we were brainwashed into believing that premium was a German word and that only a Mercedes S-Class or a Range Rover knew how to create a quiet cabin. The Exceed EX7 is a brutal reality check for the European establishment. Chery built this vehicle on their advanced EOX platform, and they offer it as an EREV that easily breaks the 1,000-kilometer range barrier. Because there is no traditional transmission and the engine acts purely as a generator, there are no heavy engine mounts violently shaking the cabin. Combined with double acoustic plus, the EX7 is literally one of the quietest places on Earth. At 110 kilometers per hour on the highway, you can whisper to your passengers in the back seat and be heard perfectly. And it doesn't just conquer sound, it conquers the road itself. The EX7 uses the flying fish chassis, a predictive active suspension system. While traditional SUVs passively and slowly react to potholes, the EX7 uses roof-mounted LiDAR to scan the surface of the road head 1,000 times per second, creating a high-definition 3D topological map of the asphalt. Milliseconds before your tire actually hits a bump or a joint in the road, the gigabit Ethernet brain adjusts the continuous damping and double-chamber air suspension to instantly absorb the impact. The wheels move violently up and down, but the cabin remains perfectly flat. You're getting the magic carpet ride that legacy automakers spent decades trying to perfect, executed here with digital precision for a fraction of the cost. It filters your air to medical-grade standards and uses artificial intelligence to adjust a hot stone massage in your seat based on your stress levels. You arrive at your destination hundreds of miles later feeling completely rested. Finally, we have to talk about the group road trip. Taking a large family or a group of friends across the country usually means buying a massive, cumbersome minivan. Historically, vehicles like the Toyota Alphard or the Mercedes V-Class were the gold standard for luxury group travel. But underneath the quilted leather and ambient lighting, they were essentially commercial delivery vans built on archaic, wobbly steel chassis that shuddered violently over broken pavement. XPeng looked at this segment and engineered an extinction-level event called the XPeng X9. This is a massive 5.3-meter luxury MPV, but it completely breaks the laws of physics. XPeng threw away the traditional slow assembly line and used a 12,000-ton gigacasting press to forge the entire underbody as a single solid piece of aerospace-grade aluminum. This gives the X9 a torsional rigidity of 46,000 Newton-meters per degree. To put that in perspective, that makes a 7-seat family van structurally stiffer than a bespoke carbon fiber European supercar. Because the chassis doesn't flex or bend at all, the predictive double-chamber air suspension can flawlessly isolate the cabin from the road. And when you finally do need to stop on your road trip, you won't be long. The X9 operates on an 800-volt silicon carbide native architecture. You plug it into a proper DC fast charger, go to the bathroom, grab a cup of coffee, and in just 10 minutes, it absorbs 300 kilometers of driving range. And oh, when you finally reach that tight, historic European town or a crowded hotel parking lot, the standard active rear-wheel steering kicks in. The rear wheels physically pivot up to 5 degrees, giving this massive 5.3-meter Leviathan the exact same turning radius as a tiny Volkswagen Golf. To conclude this forensic analysis, we must face the reality of the global market. If you are planning a road trip, the traditional legacy automakers want to sell you compromised technology from yesterday at the artificially inflated prices of tomorrow. They want you to suffer through range anxiety. They want you to pay for inefficient 10-speed gearboxes that constantly hunt for gears on every single hill. And they want you to endure the exhausting vibration of welded steel chassis. The Geely Boyu L, the Chery Exceed EX7, and the XPeng X9 prove that the era of good-enough engineering is completely dead. By utilizing hyper-efficient 46.5% thermal efficiency generators, predictive LiDAR suspension, and 12,000-ton gigacasting, the Chinese Vanguard has fundamentally solved the road trip equation. You can now have infinite range, absolute silence, and surgical handling, all packaged in vehicles that cost tens of thousands of dollars less than the legacy alternatives. The compromise is over. This is Wheelwise Ways. If you appreciate the uncompromising, highly technical truth behind the machines that are actively destroying the old world, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We do not read corporate marketing brochures. We dissect the engineering and expose the lies. Leave a comment down below. Are you ready to take a 1,500-kilometer road trip on a single tank and charge? Or are you still trusting the old legacy brands with your family vacations? Drive safe, and I will see you in the next deep dive.